The Pentagon is reportedly planning a military deployment to Chicago as President Trump eyes the Windy City's crime crisis.
We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent, and we'll straighten that one out probably next. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York.
Unsurprisingly, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson are pushing back against Trump.
The city of Chicago does not need a military occupation. We will, take up legal action if necessary, whether it's my Department of Law or working with the governor. What this president is doing, he's declared a war on poor people.
My hometown of Chicago should take a look at what's going on in D.C. Crime has dropped significantly since Trump's crackdown, and Democrats say it's racism.
There is nothing they love more than spinning racist narratives, talking about crime.
Donald Trump, Stephen Miller have some of the most racist policies ever.
This militarization going to a Black woman mayor's city, to me, it goes again to the level of racism and hate that is constantly spewed out of this administration.
You know, this is a really interesting topic. This is my hometown, a town that I care about a great deal, and I lost my brother to violent crime in Chicago, so I care about this topic very much. I go to you, Griff. The people of Chicago have been asking for help, demanding it, begging for it for a very long time. I would even argue decades. Shouldn't J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson say, hey, let's work with you on this so we can reduce violent crime in Chicago?
100%, Gianno, and you are a perfect example. You know, there have been more than 250 murders in 2025 in the city of Chicago. And when Mayor Johnson or Governor Pritzker gets up there and makes these statements that this is unnecessary, unwanted, uncalled for, why don't you ask the loved ones of those 254
exactly right.
or 6 that lost their lives? You know firsthand, tragically, what that feels like. And in Washington, I've been reporting on that story there and talking to people there that feel that they're not necessarily Trump voters, but they're welcoming this. One woman, Asia Tamimi, had her husband stabbed to death trying to intervene a few years ago in a robbery. Her eldest son is a paraplegic, shot 9 times. And, you know, it's just this eye-opening sort of thing that the president's done, that people in crime-ridden cities like Washington or Chicago that learn to accept and live with it, and they never took time, Gianno, to say, wait, it doesn't have to be like this.
Yeah.
We could change it.
100%. And if you don't have the money to leave the city, then you're really stuck with the crime. And Lisa, my very dear friend, I'm so glad to be here with you. You know, the Democrats have been arguing that the actions of the president is racist. But what has become clear to me over years of seeing a policy, Black lives oftentimes don't matter to Democrats, it's the Black votes, and they continue to create policies that endanger the lives of these African Americans, and most of the victims in Chicago are African Americans. So if they're not doing something about it, what's the point here?
Well, I'll say real quick, Gianno is thinking about running for Senate in Illinois, so if you think he should, let him know. But and I think he'd be a very good candidate. But yeah, what is racist is defunding the police so more Black people are murdered in the inner city. What President Trump is trying to do is to save them, is to save people in these inner cities. That's not racist, that's life-saving. That's being a warrior for them. I will say in Washington, D.C., I do think the scenario is a little bit different than in Chicago, because if you look at Washington, D.C., the Constitution grants Congress the authority over this city. The president has the authority over the Home Rule Act to lead the Metropolitan Police, the D.C. police there. And he also has the distinct job of being in control of the D.C. National Guard. Now, when you get into some of these other cities, I don't know, it's a little bit more legally dubious, right? It gets to be a little bit, and I know that there's been calls for the president to to invoke the Insurrection Act, like Senator Tom Cotton asked him to do that during the George Floyd riots. But you could argue there was like a rebellion and an insurrection happening at that time because cities were being burnt down, police officers were being beat up. Like in that case, that makes sense. So now, I don't know. I mean, I know that he's sending the National Guard in to help some of these ICE agents, which would make sense because they're just, more in a facilitating role. So I think it depends on how he does this. What's the legal justification for it? So I don't know. What he's doing in D.C., I fully support, and it's working. He's enforcing the law. There's been 0 murders in over a week.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, I just would like to hear the reasoning.
No, 100%. And Nicole, he can bring in ATF, he can bring in DEA, he can bring in numerous FBI, numerous agencies to help with what's going on in the city of Chicago. As an example, there are 2,000 detectives short of the murder workload there. And the clearance rate is terrible in the city of Chicago because the police are handcuffed. What's your take on this?
Well, so first of all, of course, Johnson and Pritzker are not going to open their arms and welcome anything that Trump is going to do, even if it's for the good of the people, because this is all politics. And they're always going to put up resistance because they hate Trump more than they love Americans.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. And so while Chicago continues to say, well, our crime rates are actually down, and they do point to some rates being down, the reality is since 2019.
But the clearance rate is still down.
Since 2019, Chicago's down 2,100 police officers.
Yeah.
You have fewer police officers, you're going to have significantly fewer arrests. And I'll be honest, the Justice Department is investigating the D.C. police right now for cooking the books about their rates. I would be more interested to look at Chicago rates as well, because all you have to do is talk to people of Chicago, and you know that crime is still a massive issue, and they need help.
100%. As we mentioned, violent crime is down more than 40% in D.C., and the National Guard isn't done yet. At least 6 red states are sending a total of 1,200 additional troops to D.C. to help with the crackdown. Griff Jenkins is at our touchscreen to break this all down for us. Griff?
Yeah, Jenna, let's get a little closer look. We've heard so much about what's happening in Washington, but we can show you, we put a map together for you. Now, the 2,200 plus National Guard troops are stationed in about a dozen places right now in Washington. Just to give you an idea on this, the Capitol is right here. This is the mall. Obviously, the White House is somewhere back behind that. But all of these, Union Station, we've seen the troops there a lot, in Gallery Place, north of Massachusetts Avenue, McPherson Square, Foggy Bottom, that's where GW is, and of course the National Mall, Smithsonian. These are areas that are near metros, in areas where we have seen a lot of crimes being committed traditionally, and that's why they're hardening their position here. Now, let's go a little deeper, though, because I want to show you, this is the numbers that really bring it home, Gianno. You look at the wards, because D.C. is shaped, as you can see here, like a diamond, basically, and it's broken up into 8 wards, and some of the wards with the highest numbers you see here in Ward 1, 2,100. In Ward 6, 2,100. Ward 5, 2,840 crimes in 2025. And then, of course, in Ward 8, which is one of the lowest income areas, they have 1,600, but that number's low because there's less police and they underreport that, so that number's likely higher. But let's just work with this, right? So in Ward 5, where we see the highest amount of crimes, there have been 236 days this year to date, right now. So if you do the math, in Ward 5, there are 12 violent crimes every single day.
Wow.
Ward 5 has a population of 90,000. Do the math, that's 1 in 31 residents are victims of violent crime there. Here in Ward 1, 9 violent crimes a day. In Ward 6, 9 a day. 7 in Ward 8, but as I told you, that number, I believe, is low. I want to move here quickly through a couple other things. Some high-profile ones that happen. You can see here, this is the ex-DOJ staffer, Edward Korstein, also known as Big Balls, was attacked trying to stop a carjacking. We all saw that last year. Democrat Congressman Henry Cuellar carjacked in Navy Yard. But look at this. Walking distance to the U.S. Capitol, just a few blocks. Edward Korstein attacked just walking distance, a few blocks from the White House. That's how dense and prevalent this crime is. I want to take you to a couple other things, and that is the gang activity. We're seeing reports of gangs arrested every day. It's a complex gang situation in Washington, D.C., because you have a mixture of international, transnational gangs and some crews. The Simple City Crew is known for carjackings. Kennedy Street Crew has had a major drug open-air market that got busted. The Riggs Park Crew, you've likely seen on social media the wild, out-of-control gunfights that are waged between these street crews. Because D.C. is so dense, these areas control it. But then, of course, MS-13, a designated foreign terrorist organization prevalent in D.C., along with the 18th Street Gang, which is a transnational criminal organization. So who are they picking up? In the days since August 7th, the crackdown began, two very serious members, MS-13 gang member, 18th Street gang member. There's actually been about 4 or 5 MS-13 gang members and a handful of 18th Street gang members as well. And then I'll just give you one last one. The worst of the worst. This is just a handful of those. Assault, molestation of a minor, second-degree rape, aggravated robbery, and you can see first-degree child sexual abuse. This is the picture of what the crackdown is all about. And we just wanted to show you just exactly a little more of how prevalent it is and exactly what they are getting when they go there, as Democrats, guys, continue to say that this was somehow not necessary, that this was a waste of time and that we shouldn't be doing it. And we'll walk over this way and get back there. But when you break it down, and I started looking at the data, because no one's really looked at it in those wards, it is every single day, multiple violent crimes are being carried out. And that's why you're hearing from all these residents in D.C. saying, wow, as you pointed out, for 10 straight days, not one single murder in Washington, D.C., compared to what we've seen just this year.
And really quick, do you think, obviously we know that crime has reduced because of the surge, after the 30 days are over, do you think the Trump administration would want to renew, or what kind of permanent presence may we see in D.C.?
That is the operable question, Gianno, and hopefully what is happening is that the local leaders, Mayor Bowser and the D.C. police chief, are working with this federal cooperation to say, okay, how do we extend it? How do we build on it and continue to drive crime down?
It'd be up to Congress to extend it. So that would be the answer with Congress.
Well, very good. Thank you both. Thank you. Thank you all, I should say.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.